Hello, I wanted to say a little bit today about narc attacks because narcissism, in its subtlest form, can come under the radar towards us, and it's often the case that we do not realize that we may have suffered an attack from a narcissistic individual, and therefore understanding with conscious awareness what is happening in these relationships with these individuals who may be trying to sneakily attack us in a way that cannot be seen or heard, even by the people who may be around you at the time. And so, understanding consciously who may be before you and how they perform their attacks is interesting and also very useful as far as maintaining safe relationships in our lives, and also as far as remaining happy and joyful and able to protect ourselves in a way that is also subtle. And so, when we consciously look at the people who are before us and their behaviours and what they are saying and why they are saying what they're saying and what their agenda may be, it's often easier then to be able to spot a narc attack when it comes. And one of the keys that I want to highlight today is that particularly narcissistic people, or it could be anybody in general, will often identify what our vulnerabilities are early on. And they may sort of squirrel away that information in order to wait for a particular time. Often when we are going through a vulnerable time, people will sometimes use that time because it's a time when we feel particularly weak or vulnerable, and our soft spots are often on show at those times. They will often use those times in order to attack. And sometimes the attacks are not done overtly because most people do not want to lose their persona and their facade in the community, particularly if other people are around at the time. And so this is why you often get a sneak attack, because the other person doesn't want people to see and hear what they're doing. Which is why you get covert attacks that are done in such a subtle manner that the people around you are more likely to say, "What was that about? There was nothing wrong with that. I couldn't see anything wrong with that." And yet, because of the thing that the person said referred to you and your particular vulnerability, often the people around accept what is being said because you've welcomed these people into your friendships, or because this person is a member of your family. And this is where it can be particularly painful, is when these attacks are performed by a member of the family or someone who you are very close to, or it could also be an intimate partner member. Another key to a narc attack can be, importantly, that it comes out of nowhere. And it can come at a time when you are joyful, when you feel really pleased about something you've done, and you feel really proud of something that you've done. And because you feel particularly proud and you're particularly high, purely because you worked so hard for this thing and you feel so pleased that you managed to accomplish it, it's at that time when a narc attack can come, because these people often, and other people in general, sometimes do not like to see other people's happiness. They do not like to see other people achieving things that they cannot achieve. And therefore they will wait until that specific moment in order to undercut the person and to pull the rug out from beneath them in a way that hits them at this particular time when they're feeling particularly happy, particularly joyful, and also possibly particularly vulnerable. So, if you've noticed that at particularly happy times and successful times, that you get this undercutting and undergirding of their behaviour, it's a good idea to understand that that could be a deliberate attack, and also to be wary, possibly, of that person in the future, because it is a pattern that forms over time. And when we are in the presence of these particular people, we will see a pattern of these subtle cruise-like missile attacks at a particular time. And that pattern will build up if you observe and if you make a log of those occasions, because those occasions can very often be connected to your happiness. And therefore, one of the areas that we need to protect for our own health and well-being is our happiness. Because what can happen when we receive those barbs over and over again in various different situations from various different people, what can happen is that we start to relate pain to our success and our happiness. And that, for some people, means that they start to not welcome happiness and success into their lives, because when it's happened in the past, they've received a form of punishment or pain when they've been successful or happy. And it's a type of learned helplessness, really. It's the same sort of concept, that when we relate two things together, it can put us off of being successful and happy in the future. So there are a couple of tips, and one more that I want to offer you is to say that we need to be very aware that when we talk about attacks, it doesn't have to be overt and in your face and overt verbal abuse, because abuse and disrespect can come in very, very subtle forms as well, which is why people often start with subtle abuse and build up to overt abuse and disrespect, because the person becomes conditioned to it in subtle forms first. And then they are not so surprised when overt abuse comes later on in more overt forms. And so I thought it would be useful to highlight these keys to narc attacks, and there are many more. But just to be aware and use our conscious awareness that in many instances it can be subtle and it can be at particular times. One being when we are vulnerable and maybe at a low time in our life, where people will sneak in and take that opportunity to take our energy, really, and to bring us down even further, because we're in a weakened state. And so they take the opportunity, they take advantage of that opportunity. But also, it's quite useful to understand that it can happen at the other end of the scale when we are very happy and when we are very successful, because some people do not like other people's success and do not like other people's happiness, because often they're not very happy in themselves and they don't think that they can have that. Or if they do have it, they don't think that anybody else deserves it but them. And so I thought it was just important to look at those two areas of vulnerability and realise that narc attacks can come at any time. And the key really is to understand who is before you and to take appropriate action. I hope that's helpful, and as always, stay safe and very happy. Bye bye.